Euromaxx highlights. Coming up on the show, Showstopper, a luxury prefabricated house, premieres at an international trade fair. Music Matters. The Beethoven Festival in Bonn features all the composer's 9 symphonies. And personal portraits, photographs of people here in Germany who saw the fall of the wall. The Euromaxx highlights. And here's your host, Robin Merrill.
And a very warm welcome from our studios here in Berlin. The mountaineer Reinhold Messner was the first person ever to conquer the world's 14 highest peaks and the first to climb Mount Everest without the aid of oxygen. This week he turns 65, but although he doesn't run up mountains anymore, he's active in many other spheres. We met him on set in his new role as movie maker.
World-famous mountaineer Reinhold Messner is preparing for his next big adventure. Together with German director Josef Wiesmeyer, he's producing his first feature film called Nanga Parbat. It's based on his own life. The film follows him from his childhood in South Tyrol, where he and his brother dreamed of conquering the Himalayas, to his brother's death on 8,000-meter-high Nanga Parbat in 1970. During their descent, Messner's brother died in an avalanche. Reinhold Messner survived.
In the end, we're trying to show that man, even when he's starved, exhausted and freezing, can still survive. We spent 3 nights exposed to the elements at minus 30 or 40 degrees Celsius, and even then you can still survive if you don't give up. We're filming what happened there because, and this is my opinion, what happens in life is more moving than anything we can dream up.
Ist viel stärker als das, was wir uns ausdenken können.
Reinhold Messner has quite literally spent his life on the edge. He was the first to climb all 14 of the world's highest mountains, completing the feat in 1986 with his ascent of Mount Lhotse in the Himalayas. It was the last time he set foot on one of the 8,000-meter peaks.
That's how my life has been. When I felt that I was done with something, that I had reached all that could be reached, or that I could dream of, then I'd get a bit bored. So I just put it aside and did something else.
In 1989, he crossed the Antarctic on skis with the German adventurer Arvid Fuchs. In a bid to draw attention to conservation issues, he began a 5-year term as a member of the European Parliament in 1999. And with no state funding and at great personal financial risk, he founded a successful museum project in South Tyrol in 2003. In Juval Castle, Sigmundskron Castle and 2 other locations, Reinhold Messner presents his own personal relationship with the mountains.
It's not about conquering the summits or geology, it's about the conflict between man and mountain.
Messner spends his summers in Juval Castle near Murano in northern Italy. 2 months ago, he married his long-term companion Sabine Stehle. Together they have 3 children. Reinhold Messner is also an author. The release of his latest book coincides with his 65th birthday. It's the latest of some 70 works describing his adventures. The script for Nanga Parbat is based on his book The Naked Mountain. Florian Stetter plays the role of Reinhold Messner. The actor has studied the character of the extreme mountaineer exhaustively.
I think he has an uncanny power. He's fearless. He just wants to overcome his own barriers and see what's possible.
The film depicts man's struggle to survive in the mountains. Reinhold Messner, a man who's never satisfied and always looks for new challenges, be it in the mountains or behind a camera.
I think I still have a slim chance to make a completely fresh start at something in my life, to learn something and attain a certain perfection. Otherwise, I won't be satisfied. Now I'm at the right place in my life. At 20, I wouldn't have had the patience to stand around on a film set, but maybe at 70, I'll be able to bring the mountain to the silver screen.
Nanga Parbat is due for release in January 2010. For the 65-year-old Messner, perhaps the film represents an opportunity to close a very difficult chapter in his life.
Prefabricated houses have had a bad reputation in the past, but they've overcome it in recent years. Today they are an exciting blend of modern design and high-tech building methods. So much so that at a design fair in Verona this week, the Italian architect Carlo Colombo presented his latest luxury pad, which is actually a prefab house in the Bauhaus style.
Straight lines both inside and out, and a pool out front. That's how Carlo Colombo envisions a prefabricated house. Casa Colombo, shown here in an exhibition hall in Verona, has 350 square meters of living space. The prefab house from the Milan-based architect is making its debut at the design fair Abitare il Tempo.
This prefabricated house has been conceived with a broad audience in mind, but first and foremost, it's my house. I always try to realize my dreams. I set the standards for my own blueprints, and I play around with it a bit. There are many things that don't have any real function. For instance, who has a bathroom that's completely open with a 5-meter high roof?
This oversized shower is one such dalliance in Casa Colombo. By contrast, the wardrobe and lamps feature a more functional design. All furnishings were also conceptualized by Carlo Colombo himself. The house costs 1,500 euros per square meter, unfurnished.
I follow the same motto both in my work and in my life: simple design. But I'm still crazy about the details, and very particular when it comes to picking out materials. I always come back to the element of water and colors, especially white. Combined with the natural stone and wood, you're living in a house that comes quite close to our natural environment.
Werner Eislinger designed a one-room take on the simple prefab house. The German designer debuted his 39-square-meter loft cube in 2003. To this day, the design is considered cutting-edge in the prefab world.
This is the view into the loft cube. We go in and there's a light, transparent, airy room with lots of glass. There are windows all around looking out on the landscape. So it's not claustrophobic, screened-in living with lots of walls. Rather, it's the polar opposite.
With a flat roof and a glass front, Griffner House, an Austrian company that produces prefab houses, focuses on design. The model box is about 200 square meters in size. This prefabricated home costs 1,300 euros per square meter. All the walls are made of solid wood, just like Casa Colombo.
The advantage of this kind of construction is that no metal is used. The other plus is the low cost and the sustainability. The house is, as we see here, finished in 3 months at the most, with planning, construction, and assembly. Building this kind of house by traditional means would take a year and a half. That's the big advantage of solid wood prefab construction.
Prefab design is a changing field. From an uninspired standard look to high-profile design, Casa Colombo follows a few key rules of style: simple, elegant, and finished fast.
This year, at the Beethoven Festival in Bonn, the Deutsche Kammerphilharmonie Bremen took on the mammoth task of performing all 9 of Beethoven's symphonies. And DWTV was there making a documentary film, The Beethoven Project, which will be shown next year and will also be available later on DVD. The Market Square in Bonn was full last weekend for the live broadcast of the 9th Symphony direct from the concert hall.
One concert, 2 stages. The Deutsche Kammerphilharmonie Bremen is playing Beethoven's 9th in the Beethoven Hall in Bonn, conducted by Paavo Järvi. And in the town square, 4,500 more fans are enjoying the same concert at a public viewing put on by the Beethoven Festival and Deutsche Welle.
It's not as stuffy. It's wonderful sitting outside in Bonn in the town square with a glass of wine.
We do this here often. Last year, Kurt Masur performed here. It really has a nice atmosphere.
I think it's great that you can still enjoy the concert even if you don't get tickets.
Accompanying the performers on stage, a camera team from DWTV, busy working on a documentary film about the orchestra. The title, The Beethoven Project. The team from Deutsche Welle accompanied both orchestra and conductor for more than 2 months.
It has been absolutely fantastic. People know what they're doing, have good ideas, and have enough resources to realize all their ideas. We have 5 cameramen and trolleys going up and down, and a camera moving behind the orchestra and so on. People are very excited about the film. It actually sort of is the culmination of our whole Beethoven project.
Bremen in northern Germany. The orchestra is based in Tenebe, a district with high unemployment and few cultural opportunities. In the Bremen East Comprehensive School, the orchestra's professional musicians introduce young people to classical music. This is where the orchestra rehearses. The orchestra isn't publicly funded. It's a private enterprise. It has to generate its own income, and each member is also a shareholder. Exactly how this unique private orchestra functions is also a topic in the new 90-minute documentary from DWTV.
Media presence is vital for an orchestra that is primarily self-funded and looking to make a name for itself on the world stage. The more prominently the orchestra appears in the media, the better it is for the endeavor.
Back in Bonn, the musicians are rehearsing between concerts for a crossover project. Accompanying them with a camera is Christian Berger, director of the DWTV documentary film.
What's special about the film is that we don't just show the orchestra performing. We get a chance to see the inner life of the orchestra, and we get to see what makes the group so good. We see what it's like on a tour, where the entire Beethoven cycle is performed in just 4 days.
The Beethoven Project is the latest in a series of successful DWTV films about classical music, including Kent Nagano conducts classical masterpieces, and the film The Promise of Music about the Simón Bolívar Youth Orchestra in Venezuela.
With classical music, we can build cultural bridges between Germany and other countries, especially to regions where classical music doesn't play a central role. For example, the Arabic world, or large parts of Asia.
This view of classical music as an international language is shared by Deutsche Welle and the Beethoven Festival in Bonn.
Beethoven is one of, if not the most famous composer in the world, and Deutsche Welle is a global player because it broadcasts the same German culture and democratic ideals which can be found in many of Beethoven's works in 140 countries worldwide.
9 symphonies in 4 days. That's the challenge of the musicians involved in the Beethoven Project. Look out for the documentary film on DWTV in 2010. The film will also be available on DVD, together with all the concert footage.
Now, bioproducts are all the rage nowadays. Organic is the name of the game, and all things green are flourishing in the garden. So environmentally friendly has become big business, and leaping on this good life bandwagon, there are lots of magazines to advise you how to live the organic life.
Country life has never been so fashionable. These days, a range of glossy magazines showcase rustic chic. From gardening tips to recipes, organic beauty products, and environmentally friendly fashion. And with up to 500,000 readers, they've obviously captured the zeitgeist. And they sell especially well among city dwellers. It seems these days everyone is longing to return to nature, especially people in big, bustling cities like Berlin. Alexandra Rigos has her own green oasis in the city center, where she grows pumpkins, beets, and tomatoes.
What I love about having a garden in the city is that here in such an urban environment, surrounded by buildings, you can find a really rich natural habitat. There are all sorts of insects here, different types of butterflies and bees. It's amazing how much potential a small city garden has.
The magazines depict the lifestyle of health and sustainability. Its followers, referred to as lojas, buy organic and fair trade products, but they also want style and quality. Designer furniture made out of recycled wood, for example. Or guaranteed organic porcelain.
To the Loas, luxury is about a standard of living, a certain quality, but also having time and not just money.
And of course, fresh tomatoes from the garden. You can find plenty of articles describing the joys of living in harmony with nature, but you can't really understand what it's all about until you've experienced it firsthand.
And experiencing things firsthand is what our next report is all about. On November the 9th this year, it will be exactly 20 years since the fall of the Berlin Wall. In the weeks leading up to that memorable night, a young East German photographer, Joachim Lieber, decided to document the events unfolding in his country. Recently, he's tracked down some of the people featured in his old photos, and they've been reliving these momentous events in Germany's recent past.
Until recently, Barbara and Joachim hadn't seen each other for 20 years. Back then, Barbara was among the crowds in Potsdam protesting against East Germany's communist regime. Joachim was there too, taking photographs. Two decades later, she once again modeled for him. These days, those turbulent times in 1989 are a distant memory, but a good one.
There was suddenly an atmosphere we'd never experienced before. It was like a spiritual liberation. We realized we had nothing to be afraid of anymore.
Joachim Lieber has now published a book containing photographs taken in those heady days when the East German people took to the streets demanding democracy and freedom. Joachim says this emotional era inspired him to become a professional photographer.
Before that, I was just an amateur. But those events were a trigger for me. On the 4th of November, I realized I had to go out or I'd miss something huge. Before that, I thought everyone was mad. But then I realized something major was going on, and something in me changed. And off I went.
Joachim Lieber grew up in Potsdam and still lives there today. 20 years after the fall of the wall, he decided to take new pictures of the people he'd photographed back then. He managed to find 10 of them, and these 10 are the subjects of his book. Then and now.
I selected pictures of people who made an impression on me. Then I went off looking for them. It was hard to find them, but I did it. What I did then was take a picture of them in the same place where I'd photographed them for the first time 20 years ago. And then I let them talk. That's what made this project exciting.
Joachim asked them to write down their stories. Peter Piske is a retired policeman. On November 8th, the communist regime announced that for the first time, all East German citizens could cross into the West. Piske was among the policemen issuing thousands of visas as East Germans queued to go west.
We had to react fast because we realized we had no choice. We took the tables and chairs from inside and put our stamps on the table. Then we armed ourselves with our stamps and stamped one document after another and tried to keep people calm as much as we could so the crowds didn't get out of control.
All of Joachim's protagonists got to meet one another at the book launch, and they all get a chance to tell their stories.
And as always, you can see some of those reports again on YouTube if you like. Just type in Euromaxx English and the choice is yours. That's it for now. Bye-bye.